Did you like it?
Well, hello, my friends. It's your boy, Garrett J. White, the founder of Wake Up Warrior and the CEO of DKW Styling and your co-host here in the Date Your Wife podcast. I am here with the lovely and more beautiful teethed woman, my co-host, Danielle K. White.
Well, now on that introduction.
Now you have to tell them what you've done. Tell them what you've done. I think they look beautiful. Tell them what you've done, though.
I got bigger boobs.
You did not get bigger
I
boobs.
didn't get bigger boobs. I got bigger eyes.
No, did not get bigger
Okay,
You
I
got
got
butt implants.
No, I didn't.
No butt implants.
I had veneers done because
Veneers.
I actually had a veneer. This is actually a random story. I think I was like 13 years old and I was doing this track and field event. And I thought I could jump, even though I'm not. I'm 5'3", but I decided to sign up for the high jump. And
I know. Do you know I've never heard this story?
You
Continue.
haven't?
No.
Okay. Really?
No.
I'm actually a pretty fast runner. Like
You are.
despite how little I am, I'm pretty fast. But anyway, I was decided to sign up for the high jump and test my jumping skills. And I don't know what happened. I made it, and all of a sudden, I just remember I kicked the bar or something, and that bar is heavy, and I just see it coming down on my face, and all of a sudden, it's like, bam, knocks me in the face, and next thing you know, I spit my front tooth out in my hand. Okay,
The whole tooth?
like it was a good chip. Like literally, I was like, "Oh my god, I just chipped my tooth." I was kind of freaking out, but I was younger, so I went and I just had like bonding done, but my bonding kept coming off, and then finally, when we got married, I was like when we got married, like a few years after it, like I was so sick of the bonding coming off, and it kept coming off, so I kept filing my other teeth shorter to match it.
Oh, no.
So anyway, I just felt like my teeth kept getting smaller, and then my dentist.
You had filed your other teeth down?
Just to match.
Not by yourself, you
No, I went to the dentist, and I was like, it looks like it's shrinking. He's like, oh, and they kept filing them up. Anyways, so long story short, like, they ended up putting a veneer on there, but the veneer never looked great. Like the color was a little off, and it was a little bit whiter than my other not whiter.
Did anyone else actually notice this, or just you?
No, just me. Totally just me. But It started to bug me. It was like one of those little things that I was just like, God, like I'd see a photo of me and I was like, I look like I have like almost like a dead tooth in certain lightings. So anyways, I found a dentist here who I actually found him through a client of mine who said he was like a really good dentist in Orange County, like one of the best cosmetic dentistry here, and he was close by, and I'm like, cool. So I actually was like, I'm going to find him for Garrett. And then
Because you tell me my teeth look gross.
No, because you have no teeth. Well, you can tell your teeth story in a second. Anyways, long story short, I went and I just decided instead of fixing the one veneer, I was like, screw it, and I just got all veneers. So I'm still getting used to them, so if I talk weird or whatever. But Garrett says every time I smile...
you just look happier. I'm not going to lie to you. I just genuinely enjoy you. Thank you, Dr. Todd Snyder.
I felt like before when people would be like, smile, and I'd be like, I am. Like, I felt like I had to smile really, really hard for any, like my teeth, like for any of my teeth to show. So now I'm like, oh, look, I can smile, and I'm happy. I look happy, and I am happy. Good for me. So
I legitimately think you look like 100% happier all the time. Like I experience you as like way happier, which makes me happy. It's like I feel like you're smiling at me all the time.
What's funny is like I'll just look over at you in the kitchen and I'll just kind of do like a half smile, and you're like, oh, I can tell you're like,
because it looks like a giant, amazing smile.
I can just tell like you're like, oh, she's cute. I like that.
It's more than cute. I mean, it's beyond. It's actually this point that's like even more than sexual. It's like just this thing of like
give you some of those butterflies.
Yeah, well, it's like between your like amazing bumper, which is the word that Hannah uses, the bumper, aka booty, and
I got a big
the
bum
eyeballs
and, big teeth. I'm good
and
to
the
go.
teeth. It's just you're just the whole package.
Thanks,
So
babe.
I don't have a glorious tooth story. I have gum surgeries and loss of teeth, but I'm not even going to talk about my teeth in this show. I can just say that my wife's veneers look amazing, and our topic today is going to be the conversation of money. We're not going to talk about sex. We're not going to talk about kids. We're not going to talk about communication. Those topics are going to come up. Today we're going to talk about money and momentum.
You know why I was thinking that would be a good topic today is because I was actually writing a blog post, and I have my blog is dkwstyling.com if you want to go check it out. I post about hair, fashion, lifestyle, and I post a recap of our podcast there. But anyways, on Mondays I post all about hair and just like transformations that my stylists have had at my salon and things like that. And I recently feel like we have just like hit, and I'm sure with your business as well, but like specifically with my business, like we've just kind of hit like a tipping point and momentum starting to pick up. And I was like thinking how like in the beginning of businesses, like people they underestimate the small things in life that push them forward. Like they're not consistent with the small things that actually create momentum. And so I feel like the first like 3 to 4 years, and I'm sure you can attest to this as well with your business, like are like the hardest because you're going from like nothing to something. And then and in my blog post I was saying like when I first started my education for natural beaded rose, which is the hair extension technique that I created, it was like in the beginning I didn't know how to market. I didn't have a huge brand, so I offered a program called shadowing, which was just like one-on-one coaching. And then as that started to get more demand, I started to offer small classes of like 10 to 15 stylists. And then as that started to get more demand, we started doing classes. That's kind of when I actually brought Garrett in as my business partner, and it's something we do together now, and it's called Big Money Stylist. And then we went from doing like 10 to 25 or 30. And then last year we had a convention of like 200. And then this year it's like almost 400. So it's like in the beginning, like when you're going from 1 to 10 people, it doesn't seem like that big of a jump.
Right.
But then all of a sudden when you're going from like 300 to 600 and 600 to 1200, when you're doubling down and the number's larger, all of a sudden people are like, this guy came out of nowhere. Or they just came out of nowhere. And you're like, no, I'm just consistently doing the same stuff, but our numbers are bigger. So our momentum is way bigger.
So I was sitting in a room back in the day, just making sure this recording server connection or have to disconnect it. Ignore. Well, hopefully the show's still recording. I believe it is. It is still recording. Okay, good. All right, I was just making sure. I was like, I don't want to keep you doing this show if it's not recording. So I was actually sitting back in 2010. I'm sitting in a room with a man by the name of Brendan Burchard. The guy who has created Experts Academy. He's done a whole lot of cool shit. But anyways, I'm sitting in his room. There's 800 people in the room. And he makes a comment inside of that room. He says, how many of you here in the room stand up if you've known me less than 12 months or who I was? And 70% of the room stands up of 800 people in this room. And I'm sitting at about row 20 in probably, I don't even know how many rows. There was a ton of rows. There's 800 people in the room. And it's just a big room. It was a very big room. Very excited to be in that event. Lots of clapping, jumping, learning about how to be an expert. But he said he has a room stand up, and I'm looking around at the room, and I was one of them who had not known who he was. And he makes an emphasis to two things after he has everyone sit down. He said, number one, this is the power of marketing. And he said, number two, I want you to understand that this room of 800, although you might be impressed by what it is right now, very few people understand that it took me 8 years to get here. Mm-hmm. He's all, 8 years ago, I was doing events with 10 people, 15 people. And he made one comment during that actually stuck out to me that really impacted me from there clear to what we've built over the last decade, last 9 years or so, which is deliver maximum value at the level that you are currently playing at. Just deliver maximum value. It's like, hey, you got 800 people in the room here today. I'm going to teach you. He's all, but understand this began, like the future of my game, and this began with a connection and a conversation of value long time ago. Now, marriage and momentum and money all have exactly the same thing in common with what I was experiencing watching Brendan. And the same thing you're talking about in your blog post, right? So if we looked at money as a conversation of money, and we'll look at it that way, but we also look at marriage and the result of marriage, and a marriage that works is also money. And the topic of today's show is momentum is money, and money is momentum. Then this means that anything great takes a fucking long time to build.
Well, like if you're tying it into relationships, I think that like, it's funny because I'm almost 8 years into my business. You're probably like 9 years into yours. And
I'm 17 years into business.
I know, but like that, even like that.
This business right now, these businesses, I'm like almost 9 years, yeah.
Right. I mean, now, when I say business, it's like, I guess you started with Wake Up Warrior, but now we have like multiple businesses within inside of our business. Mm-hmm. But anyways, like both like being like, you know, the 8-9 year mark in, and we're feeling like momentum's picking up and it's crazy. But the same thing, like, I think with just relating it back to the topic of marriage is most people would probably quit before things, if you have a crappy marriage and then you're trying to work on it, most people would probably quit like 2-3 years in. They'd be like, fuck it, I'm out. You know
most people do quit.
Yeah. So
they do quit. Like, well, I'm speaking at EO, Entrepreneur Organization, in San Diego here just a few days ago. And I get a question from somebody afterwards about marriage. And they asked me, they said, well, you know, we watch you and your wife. We see you on the podcast. We see the stuff you've done. It's so amazing. And my wife is just not getting it. And I looked at him. I said, "Well, how long have you guys been? How long have you been doing the Warriors way? How long have you been like practicing this discipline or this doctrine? How long have you been even attempting to make this part of your regular routine?" And he said, 3 months.
I hate when people say that shit. I just want to smile and be like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like, you're fun.
Oh, well, I didn't.
But I don't want to be a total dickhead, so you can't say, you have to just be like, oh, you're on the right track. Like, what did you say?
So I'm listening. And so he said 3 months, and I said 3 months. And he said, yep. And I said, okay, well, here's the good news. Good news is you're heading down the path. You're 3 months in. That's fantastic. It's better than 1 day. You're 3 months down. I said, the disadvantage is that my wife and I have been working. We've been married 15 years. And he said, yeah, we've been married 13 years. I said, okay, good. You guys have been married quite a bit too. I said, here's what I'm going to tell you, though. The number of years that you were a dumbass and caused lack of momentum or momentum in the wrong direction or momentum in the weak direction, well, guess what? You're not going to turn that around in 2 days. If you put 100 pounds of weight on your body, you're not going to lose that weight in 2 months. And if you do lose it in 2 months
and
or
then
3
you
months,
maintain it.
It's almost impossible for you to maintain because you've not changed the fundamental disciplined habits of eating and fitness and dealing with sleep and meditation and stress.
Marriage is a lifestyle.
That's a book. Marriage is a lifestyle.
Well, if you think about it, anybody who can maintain a healthy weight their entire life, it's because why? They've chosen to make it their lifestyle.
Yeah, their lifestyle becomes fitness and food. Meaning that's just part of who they are. It's not what they do.
But it's if you are in something that's like, oh, this is a 6-month sprint or whatever. If you go in with that mindset of like, you can't really, how are you going to maintain that? That's why a lot of people like fall off the wagon that are like kind of yo-yoing. And if you treated a marriage like a lifestyle, but it's like easier said than done.
It's hard. I mean, let's not bullshit ourselves. Like sometimes I even look back at what like the fact that we made it through, and I'm kind of like, holy shit, how did we do that? Like sometimes I even ask myself the question, like, how did we do that? Because there was just so many times where things were for so many years, things were so awkward. Like we went to the awkward phase. It was like beyond awkward. It was almost like an apathetic awkward. It went from like comfortable to awkward. And then the awkward became like this,
loathing.
It became angry, and then it became like, I fucking hate you. Like, I don't know. It was just.
Man, how do you get out of that energy? It was
hard. And you're remembering this?
Well, because in both of our programs, we'll hear both men and women come and be like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but he or she is not. What do I do? And you're like.
Here's the thing I'm going to say. You have so on the topic of momentum.
Everybody wants a success list.
Yes, I'm going to give him some success list right now.
Okay, give him some success lists.
Here comes some success lists.
Some sex lists?
Success lists.
Some sexy lists?
Some sexy lists. Here's the thing I'm going to tell you first off. I spent a whole bunch of years thinking we could fix our marriage by fixing Danielle. What I mean by that was Danielle's the problem. If we just fix Danielle, this whole thing will turn around.
Everybody thinks that, though. I think everybody, I'm sure I was guilty of it, too. It's always
For sure you were guilty of it.
Obviously, I'm awesome, and sometimes I'm not, but mostly I'm awesome.
Mostly
and you're
I'm
not.
awesome.
You're mostly a douche. I'm less of a douche, but you're mostly the douche. So let's
Which
be
means
clear
if
on
you
that.
stop being a douche, then we could be all right.
But it's funny because even people will be like, no, I'm taking accountability. I'm totally a jerk. But he's mostly the jerk.
Mostly an asshole, that guy. But I'm doing way better at not being a bitch, so I'm good. All right, so the momentum that has to begin inside of you, right? There's an actual tool. You can Google this, look this up on YouTube. It's called a flywheel. A flywheel is an actual device. It's like a generator. And a flywheel actually starts this momentum. When you start to move a flywheel, it's very, very, very difficult to move. It takes a lot of energy. You've got to grab. They have device with your hands. You have to push very hard to try to get this thing moving, right? And it takes a bit. You've got to put your work in. You've got to move this flywheel, and you're pushing with your hands, and it takes a lot of work, and it's hard. It's heavy. You're sweating. You're doing the thing. But there's a moment inside of a flywheel where it hits momentum, or what Gladwell calls in his book, the tipping point, hits the tipping point, where all of a sudden the effort that you make is producing an outcome that is 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the input. So you're putting in the effort, but you've gotten this flywheel to a point that it's generated power inside of itself. So it's actually moving the wheel The flywheel is moving itself by the self-generation of power, almost like a wind turbine or like like water power plants. And it's moving. And marriage is that way, but people get to a point, and we kept doing this, try to get a little bit of momentum, and then we would quit.
Sabotage.
Sabotage.
And what I find is like people will be like, oh no, I'm moving the flywheel, Garrett. Like I'm putting in the effort, but like it's so damn hard. Like why is this flywheel not working? Why is it not moving? But I think it's because like honestly, and I'm sure we've been guilty of this too, it's like you self-sabotage because of old patterns and behaviors, and so you don't even know why. So I use the reference to like people where I'm like, you're on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Like you think you're putting in the work and you're moving really, really fast, but ultimately, if you are not progressing forward, then you've got to reevaluate where you're at in life, business, and in marriage. Like if you're moving really fast and you're burning out and you're tired, you're not doing the work. You're just moving really, really fast. And so it's like for me, because everybody's like, well, they always want, like even at our last Warrior Women's event, this woman walked out. I was trying to sneak out, and this woman stopped me and was like, hey, I need your advice really, really quick. And but she came and she was just like, I work with my husband and I don't know what to do, and I feel like I like want him to be my lover, but I'm being controlling and all this, and I'm like managing all the details, and I'm like, why don't you just let go? And she's like, well, I'm trying to let go. And the one thing that's helped me is like I always ask myself like, how do I get the end result that I'm looking for? Whether it's in business, whether it's in marriage, whether it's having more chemistry with my husband, whatever the end result is that I want, I literally have to sit back and be like, okay, what would it take to get there? And sometimes it's doing things that I don't want to do.
Right.
Like in marriage, business, life, anything. It's like doing things where I'm like, oh, but can I get over there if I don't do that? Like I'll just move really, really fast on the hamster wheel. And I'm avoiding like the elephant in the room of like the little thing that I need to get done that just keeps coming at me and like pecking me in the shoulder. But I sabotage by moving really fast on that hamster wheel, tricking myself to think that I'm actually doing the work, but I'm avoiding the elephant in the room that I know is there. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, what helped me to literally like kind of surrender is, I would just look at the situation and say, okay, how do I get what I want out of this situation? And then I'm like, okay, well, I have to be the one that submits. Well, I have to be the one to apologize. Well, I have to be the one that pushes my husband forward. Well, I have to put my foot down. Well, I have to do this. And when I look at it, I'm like, well, shit, all of a sudden this is a little bit harder than what I thought. And what I thought moving fast was actually not progressing me forward. And this small thing that's hard, when I looked at it, I'm like, maybe this isn't as much work as I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So like I look at this thing that I'm avoiding, but yet I'm willing to grind and spin on that hamster wheel. But then when I look at it in perspective, I'm like, oh my God, just do this one thing that you don't want to do.
So this doing of the thing that you don't want to do.
Am I making sense?
Yes, you're making sense. Is this whole flywheel. I'm going to bring it back to the flywheel. And if you don't know what a flywheel is, again, you can YouTube it. But let me give you an example because you know what a merry-go-round is. Or you know what the little merry-go-round you get on with your kids and you turn them around in a circle and they're sitting there. In the beginning when you're pushing your kids on this merry-go-round, the merry-go-round itself has no centrifugal force by itself. So you have to stop it. You have to actually break it free from gravity to get this merry-go-round moving. But once you get the merry-go-round moving, you can stand there as a parent holding your coffee and you can just hit it with one hand and the merry-go-round goes around. And you can hit it every 3 or 4 rotations. You can just give it a little boost and it goes again and the kids have a blast. In the beginning, you put both hands on it and you're pushing hard and you're getting it started. So most people with marriage end up killing momentum before they hit the tipping point of flywheel. Mm-hmm. Before they've generated enough force inside of marriage, they continue to quit. So you watch what happens, right? So imagine you got this merry-go-round, you've got your kids on there, you're pushing, and you do one of 2 things. One, you just stop because it's so hard. So you've pushed it around and it's kind of moving, but you just stop. You're like, oh my God, I can't do it. Then like the kids are yelling and screaming, push it, Dad, push it. So you start pushing it again, but it gets heavy and hard again after you push it for a little bit, and so you stop. The other side on this is those who had tipping point, and that's some of you in marriage. You had the momentum. You had momentum, but you took your eye off the prize. Like you turned away from the merry-go-round. You started looking across the playground at the park at something else. You no longer were focused on your marriage. And so you, again, it slowed down to a point where you lost the edge and the momentum. And now you've got to dig yourself back out. And so most divorces and most relationships, people say it's an issue of money, it's an issue of finances. Business and marriage falls apart for the same reason, because people let go of momentum, or they don't have the courage to keep pushing to get to the point where momentum could even begin.
And don't you think too, like I like that parable, because like say you let the flywheel slow down, and then all of a sudden you literally have like these nightmares and these flashbacks of like who you were when you were pushing the flywheel so hard to get it going, and you're like, I can't go back there, so I guess I'm done. You're literally like, I can't, but you fell short in maintaining that momentum. And so you can't lose sight of the maintenance of momentum.
So getting the flywheel started is very simple. Like I started talking to EO to this group, and then the conversation with this guy, and I ended up having tell him one thing. I said, "Listen, dude, are you taking your wife on a date night every week?" And he's like, "Well, no." And I said, "Okay, good. We'll start there." I was like, "Why don't you guys start going on a date once a week? That's it." Yeah. He's like, "Well, what else?" And I said, "Why don't you send her a text, part of the Core 4 game? You can learn more about that by heading to warriorbook.com." Right? So you start texting her every day. You can send her a text of honor, love, or appreciation. Send a sticky note. You need to start making deposits, communicating with her. Just do those two things. And then prove that you're not going to stop them. See, I have to believe that this momentum that we're talking about in marriage, and momentum with money, and money is momentum, and money really is the result of having in a marriage that's working amazing. And the momentum inside of business and rooms that I now have that are filled up, we filled up over 1,000 men at our events, that momentum was built because I built the momentum in myself. Right? Like there was a lot of times where you and I would collide, and I would shrink back down, or you would shrink back down. And we're just at a point now where if either one of us collides with the other one individually, we have so much momentum that neither one of us could stop each other. Mm-hmm. So like you could go crazy and say whatever you want to say. It's not going to stop me. I'm not going to stop. Like you're not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to go because I gained personal power and personal momentum as an individual. And then you do the same, which means there's not a lot I could do. I could say all I want to say. I could drag you down, or I could do all I'm going to do. But at the end of the day, you have so much momentum and certainty and power inside yourself that I wouldn't be able to stop you either.
I think it's hard, too, in the beginning, like when you're in that sticky phase in your relationship and you're like doing the love notes, or you're doing the dinners or the date nights or whatever, and your energy's like, I fucking hate you, but we've got to do this.
I know. Sex is the same way. You're like, I fucking hate you, or the guy's feeling bad.
And then you're doing these things that you don't want to do, but now you're even more bitter about it. You're like, God, we're paying a babysitter, or the wife's like, God, I'm having more sex with him, but like I'm actually starting to hate him more. Like you, right?
Right.
And so you'll hear that in couples too, where they're like, well, I'm doing all these little things that you guys are teaching, but what they're not doing is they're not like checking themselves and their attitude. Like I always like to say, like, we go to work and we like put on a happy face and a cordial face or whatever, and we let our clients or our see like our better side of us, but then we come home and we're tired and we're depleted and we stopped acting cordial, and we stopped, like, we just literally are like, man. So like in the beginning you have to really focus on like your energy, and when you go on date night, can you both just kind of have open communication? Can you both just be in a good space? And can you not like be in this kind of like collision point? Because when you're putting in the time but you're not willing to kind of shift your energy too, I think it's hard.
Well, look, listen, we go to the Halloween party last night with the kids at the school. I had on my Warrior polo, my Warrior black Lulu pants that I love, my anti-ball crushers, ABC anti-ball crushers.
I had on jeans.
No. That's what I had on, and I had my Vans on.
Oh.
But I went home, and I picked up a jacket, and I changed. I put on a black dress shirt. I put on my nice black, some newer jeans I have. I put on my
like a CEO
Louis
when
Vuitton
you showed up.
slides. I had on my black and white, black and red jacket, my little handkerchief in it. And I rolled up and I brought you a little Jack and Coke for the Halloween party so you could survive. Wait,
true.
But I showed up to that party. I went home and deliberately changed for you.
Oh, no, you shaved this morning.
And
you know
for me.
what? Garrett loves a big old beard. I think the scruffier the better. And I actually like a little bit of a beard, but I get grossed out when it gets kind of long. I'm not going to lie.
It's getting a little long.
It was getting long. And then I just think he's handsome, and I like when it's just like a little scruffy. And so even though he likes it long, like when he shaves, like he came in today and he shaved, and I was like, oh, you did that for me. That's cute.
That's right. But yesterday I came in.
Doesn't it make you feel good though in return? Like,
but here's the
ooh.
deal. Look what happened. I show up last night and I look good. I know I looked good. I didn't look like some like dad bod guy. I rolled in. I had a long day. I knew you guys were at the party. I was just getting off work. I went home. I dressed to impress, and I came home. But that was stuff that I never used to do. I didn't care at all. Now I do it to maintain momentum. Did it work?
I thought you looked nice.
Uh-oh. Here
No,
comes the
no, I
truth.
thought you looked nice, and I could tell.
I could have got away with the Lulu pants.
No, I'm glad you didn't show up with like your warrior polo. But you could have been in jeans and a t-shirt and been cute too. But I like that you suited up. I just would have liked. I like that you took the effort to change out of your like regular work clothes.
Okay.
So, but I really think you're sexy when you just have a t-shirt and jeans on too, and like your face is shaved. So.
I felt good. It appears that it did nothing for her, but it did something for me. So there you go.
The effort that you did, and I thought you looked nice, but I'm not gonna lie. Today, when you shaved your face and you're in a t-shirt, I thought it looked super hot. But I like the jacket too. So.
Oh, well, but it's the effort, right?
Sure, but let me ask you this, and this is
All
like
right.
I know we're getting really serious on this show, but like there's times where like I'll throw on a ponytail and have a t-shirt and like some Lulu pants, my Lulu pants on.
The Lulu pants are incredible. The man that created Lulu is from the gods.
And I'm not trying, and you'll be like, you look hot. Like, why do guys like that too?
Here's the deal. If anything in the way you are dressed,
guys like a ponytail. Like, what is?
No, it's almost like you become a different character. So like when you're super formal with your Louis Vuitton shoes on and you're being all fancy and your tight dress and stuff, I'm like,
my
whoa.
Point that I'm trying
and
to
then
make
you wear
is
like jeans, I'm like, whoa. Then you wear sweats, I'm like, whoa. Then you wear Lulu, I'm like, whoa. Pretty much every time it ends in sex.
Character and contrast.
Character and contrast.
For guys listening out there too, again, this has nothing to do with the show, but
it does. Momentum.
But for guys.
Oh shit, start over.
So did any of that record?
Yep.
Well, I don't know what we missed in 26 minutes.
We didn't miss anything. We're just gonna conclude the show.
Are you going to splice these two together?
Yeah,
we don't know what happened. We were 26 minutes in, and our podcast literally just died. Daniel, you're fired.
Let's see if it. I'm hoping that it's over here. That one's not it. That one's not it.
That's us.
No.
That was us in the black shirt.
Okay, there we are. Let's see about this one. We're gonna push play on this and see if we even got it.
And our podcast literally just died.
Oh, that's one we just.
Okay, that's not it.
Oh, this one I think is it right here. I think this one's it.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. So where did we end it?
Just in genuine. I didn't care at all. Now.
You look hot. Like, why do guys like that too? Oh, see, so it just ended like we were just on that spot talking.
Anything in the way you are dressed.
So. So we can just do another segment and close the show.
I think we just leave all. We've been recording all this, so
we'll
we'll just have this be the segment. Well, we just figured out that we were good. The recording's there. The show was good, and I got to sneeze. Go.
I got to sneeze. Go. So basically, the moral of the story is sometimes we want to look at relationships in business and with inside of our marriage as kind of differently. And if you are a smart, business-minded person and you've created a successful business for yourself, maybe taking some of those tactics and applying them to marriage isn't that far off. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Well, the entire game of momentum. You can't, if you want to build a room with 800 people, Brendan Burchard style, like I talked about, which I have. Our biggest event in Warrior coming up, over 1,000 men in San Diego, happening December 7th, 8th, and 9th here in San Diego, California, at the Hyatt Manchester, Warrior Con 3. Like, took me 8-9 years to build that. Brendan built, when I was sitting in that room, he had been working 8 years to build that room. Me and Danielle have been working on our marriage for 15 years. I would say we really were working on our marriage for about 7 years.
Yeah, the last 7.
Last 7, and finally we are in sexual, emotional, spiritual, financial, family, like momentum.
That 7-8 year mark.
7-8 years of momentum.
7-8 year mark. Like, it's like things start to get good and good and good and good, and they build upon each other, and then it's like you start having, I would say in marriage too, like the same like leaps where you're like, wow, like we went through so much this last year together.
Yes.
You know, because you just pick up momentum with inside your relationship. So
fastest way to get momentum, start going on dates.
Consistency.
Every single week, consistent.
Don't overlook consistency in all areas on a daily basis, because what you think you're in the same spot now, when you look forward a couple years from now, you're going to be like, wow, who were we?
And we are going to Bruno Mars tonight for date night.
Yeah, we are.
Dun,
You
dun,
don't know the
dun, dun,
song.
dun,
I was gonna sing.
dun, dun,
Sorry.
dun, 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 dun. All right, anyways,
No.
we're done. Have a fantastic week. We look forward to talking to you next week on the Date Your Wife podcast.
Bye.